What's up, jobbers, and welcome to the latest edition of the Jobber Knocker podcast. As always, is Nestlemania alongside for the ride is a man that loves America on the 4th of July. Sparklers in his ass. The American nightmare himself, JC.
America in my soul, something, something, hot dogs and stuff. I don't know. I don't know the words to the regular song. So
the fact that you don't know them and London did.
I mean, I think if like I tried, I know most of them. But you know, it is what it is. I need the beat to go with me. I need the flow. But yeah, it's America's. It's America's. What is it? It's America's birthday. Is that what we call it? 4th of July,
Independence Day,
yippity day.
The fact that you don't know what it is kind of alarming.
I'm not a very good American. I mean, this is pretty well known. So,
would you rather join Lance and Christian and Test as the un-Americans?
I think that'd be a lot of fun, actually. Yeah.
Dun, 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 dun. Okay, that's fine. Anyway, we had a big old episode here from the Money in the Bank to Raw to SmackDown, AEW, whether it's Collision, Dynamite, yada yada yada. So there's a lot to talk about here. What exactly would you like to start with in the Shine?
Well, before we even get to the Shine, I think we just got to go through Money in the Bank, which probably the show is mostly Shine. I obviously, I was up on Maine on Saturday, and with Twitter broken, I didn't really know what was going on, but I still wanted it spoiled for myself. So I had our boy Danny from across the pond giving me some updates. But I did watch it on Monday, and I thought overall it was a really fun show. But right off the rip, man, they gave us a ladder match, man. LA Knight comes out to a big pop. Yeah. That was the popular pick to win. Obviously, he didn't win. Ricochet and Logan Paul had a scary, but the highlight of the match for me, they just that friggin' Spanish fly that they landed on their heads, like ouchie. But Nestlemania, what do we say all the time? This ain't ballet. It's called high risk for a reason. So, I mean, this match had a lot. It had all the different stories going on. Ricochet actually had a couple spots I absolutely loved. He had a 450 springboard on a Santos and Bush at one point. So, Butch, not Bush. Good God. But obviously the headline here is that Damian Priest is Mr. Money in the Bank. I know he isn't the most popular choice, but I think he was one of the choices that made the most sense to me. It's an interesting dynamic now with Seth and the rest of the Judgment Day. Obviously, we'll talk about it later in the night. It played into end on Raw, where it kind of played into effect there. But it's one of those things. I know I've always been up and down on Priest. I've kind of been up and down on Priest, but I've kind of really enjoyed him on the main roster. I love him as part of Judgment Day, so I have a lot of mixed terms there. But, I mean, he was probably my third choice in this match that I wanted to see win, but I'm not upset about it.
So the first thing I wanted to talk about was the idea of that, was he the right person? And I think it depends on the situation. I think once Monday rolled around, you would see that he is, in fact, the right choice. Because although Logan Paul, to me, would have been the better, give him the briefcase, have him interview people with the briefcase next to him and stuff like that, like getting the notoriety, getting his 23 million followers, understanding what Money in the Bank concept is, converting those fans. That's huge, especially with that. But again, he didn't win. And clearly he got domed on, which both of them are idiots for doing it. Because I really, I was going to say Ricochet should have known better. Honestly, I think I blame Ricochet on that because he should have known when to go.
God. You are such I don't want to see them do fun stuff there. They know what they signed up for.
Stuff.
They're willing to do it. WWE signed off on it. That doesn't happen that often in WWE. I know they try this shit every week in AEW and guys die for it, but that's why it's special, Nestlemania. That's why it's special. And these two are going to
car wreck is special. I don't understand.
Yeah, are you kidding me? That's what a ladder match is all about, baby. No one got injured. Triple H gave a clean bill of health.
It's sloppy, but I get it.
You're
anyway,
sloppy.
You're sloppier tonight,
Yeah,
I
I
bet.
know you want a perfectly choreographed match,
That's
so like
not
you're up
it.
there
That's
watching the
not it.
ballet.
That's not it. I like struggles. I do. I'm just saying this one was kind of a rough one. Anyway, so Priest is the winner, but do you think in long term he's gonna cash in sooner or later?
Depending what they do at SummerSlam, which it feels like Seth versus Dom is a possibility to kind of round out Seth's Judgment Day feud, and I think that really leaves it open for like a Priest to cash in. But you obviously have this Finn Balor thing going on, so I don't know if that culminates before the match or at SummerSlam, or maybe that is a match at SummerSlam and talking about Priest and Finn. So there's a lot to do, but I would think that's sooner rather than later because I think they're probably going to want Priest with his championship run to happen before we get to Royal Rumble and Mania season. Maybe he loses it around then, or maybe it's a short reign. I don't know. But it does feel like, obviously, we know Seth will probably get this thing back at some point, but it does feel like that I could see it ending sooner rather than later for him with Priest.
So the interesting part for me is understanding where we go with this because I feel like there's a real opportunity here for either Finn to get it, Finn to get the championship, and then Priest cashes in on him, or it's one of those like, Finn had his moment for like a half a second and then he cashes in, or it could be gets kicked out of the Judgment Day. I can see that happening, even though I don't want it because I think they're doing a fantastic job altogether. But last night at the end of Monday Night Raw, it made me really think about things going forward for the Judgment Day, and I think that it seems like everybody's just going to hate Finn. That's just me.
Yeah, it was interesting because obviously, I mean, we can just talk about that now because I think it's part of it. We don't have to save it, but it was the interesting dynamic where Rhea and Dom have been supportive of both. We've seen them like be worried about Finn, but also very supportive of Priest. Dom was the one pushing for Priest to cash it in after they beat him up a little bit, and then you saw like Rhea did a good job with her facials when those two were arguing as she's trying to check on Dom, and they just aren't even paying attention to the guy who's been the most loyal to them because they're just bickering like an old married couple. So it definitely like this kind of put this like little like mix up in overdrive because we saw like obviously Priest and like the presser afterwards kind of brushed it off. They both kind of brushed it off, but Finn definitely has that edge where he's upset. So I'm still curious because I think there's more moving parts than meets the eye here because obviously we've had the JD teases with Finn that they kind of have gone away with, which makes me think that that's going to come into play at some point because they kind of like set the table, but then they kind of want you to forget about it. So I think the next couple weeks are going to be very interesting for the Judgment Day. But like you said, it's bittersweet for me because much like when like they started to deteriorate the Hurt Business, it's like this faction has been so fun. And it's so hard for a faction to hit their groove and like be clicking on all levels. Like it is a little like bittersweet when they do stuff like this, but I am very interested in how this story plays out.
I don't necessarily disagree with you, but I will also say something that very much is in my brain as watching Monday Night is that Rhea Ripley is a babyface, very much so, beating Natalia. So it's weird to where I feel like there's going to be a split where Damian Priest and Rhea stick together. Dom has a fallout, but I feel like Dom and Rhea are a package here. So it's very difficult to see where this is going to. I'm sure somebody smarter than me can figure it out, but I think like there is going to be a schism, no pun intended, to just kind of cut everybody up into this thing. And I don't know what we're going to do here because Rhea feels like a babyface on the verge of being super popular. Dom is the opposite of that. And then it seems like they're going to get Priest into the babyface category and Finn's just going to be Mr. Curmudgeon. So that's just exactly how it feels. But I don't know if that's where we're headed.
The Rhea thing, I think eventually that'll happen, but I think in the short term, she's going to be booked as a heel and treated as a heel. You get those mixed reactions all the time, but you hit on the big thing. Dom is the heater for Rhea. Like anytime we saw it, even last week in the lead up to Money in the Bank, we said, wow, Rhea actually getting booed for once because she was sticking up for Dom. So that's kind of the key because they kind of tease that on Monday that her next feud likely at SummerSlam is going to be Raquel, which makes sense because they kind of showcased all the other women on Raw in a different match, which we'll probably talk about much later in the program. So the division's kind of thin, and with Ronda and Shayna kind of doing their thing, where we're going to get to next. But then Liv and Raquel, like they're like the other two big baby faces on Raw, so it makes sense for her to kind of feud with them. So it'll be interesting how they do it. I think she is like for the short term, they're still going to book her as a heel, no matter what the reaction she gets. But that's the risk, man. It's just like when EO was a heel. You run the risk when you get in certain crowds where it's going to flip on his head. But I think that's just part of wrestling. But I do think like down the line, obviously, when she ditches Dom, that'll be the moment that puts her over as the big baby face. But I think we're a ways away from that because her and Dirty Dom are working out so good.
And we move on to everybody's favorite match. Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler against Liv and your girl Raquel. I'm kidding, obviously.
She's
They
your
become
girl originally, Nestle
well.
girl.
Yeah, she was a Nestle
Since
girl.
you ditched
Clearly,
her, I'm
oh,
hey,
yeah.
I'm a fan. I think she's good.
So anyway, we have the turn, which we didn't see coming. It seems like it was an express turn at this point, heel turn express. And then, the thing was, it's not even a heel turn because the crowd cheered because London was on fucking fire. And it was just like, yeah. And then, even Liv sold it with like the holy shit thing when she was mouthing it. And then they beat up Ronda. Ronda puts everybody over on the second run here. So you can't be mad at Ronda. And then, of course, Shayna chokes out, leaves, and we got new tag team champions. I'm concerned. I get why we're doing it on the Ronda and Shayna end, but now we're stuck with the same problem we have with the women's tag team titles, don't you think?
Yes and no, because I mean, obviously, we knew coming into this match it was going to be interesting because it's like, man, we talked about it last week. Like Ronda and Shayna have already run through everyone. They beat my fire bitches. They beat Caden and Katana. Like they beat all the new teams, and they've kind of literally beat everyone. It's like, well, Raquel and Liv never lost the title, so this makes sense. So I don't mind it from that aspect with them going back on them. But like we said, I think you're going to get the TV feud, which the fallout happened on Raw, and then Raquel and Rhea is probably the plan for SummerSlam. But again, the tag titles were just on this pay-per-view. None of the women's singles belts were featured on this pay-per-view. So I don't think every title needs to be defended on every PLE. I'm okay with that. But at least like there's still a tag feud and then they're showing a division. But I do think of what you just said there is that this is kind of a fix for like we said last week, like Ronda and Shayna already beat everyone. Where Raquel and Liv could have a good feud or with our Fire Girls and everything. So I think that kind of stuff is still on the table. They obviously talked about NXT. So I'm okay with that. The Ronda Shayna thing, obviously, yeah, like you said, we didn't see it coming, man. But there was like a rumor a couple weeks ago, because I don't know how much you follow UFC, but the GOAT, Amanda Nunes, retired after her last fight. And she was kind of the one that ran Ronda Rousey out of town because Ronda had no chance against her. So now all of a sudden that division is very, very weak. And the rumor was that Ronda is going to return to UFC and fight for the vacant belt against like Pena or whoever. So I guess if like we kind of, if I just thought it was like a fake rumor at the time, didn't put much thought into it, but seeing what happened there, it's like, man, is she really going to give it another go? Because she might get her ass kicked, because in terms of UFC years, she's older and being out so long. But I mean, for the UFC, obviously be a no-brainer. It'd be a great cash grab for her because she'll get paid. It'll main event, whatever. But that is interesting. But it does feel like that the Shayna thing, it's like, this must have developed pretty quickly, because I thought, like we talked about, they probably had plans for this team being dominant, but we saw them pull the plug. And yeah, I think Shayna is going to be a beneficiary, because I don't mind the way it worked, the way they booked it as Shayna being like doing the evil one and turning her back on Ronda and all that. Because yes, I know the crowd's going to go opposite of how you think they're going to go, but let's be honest. Gosh, like Shayna acting like a babyface, there ain't no money in that. So I think by doing it this way, you keep Shayna as the badass, and people will cheer her, even though she's a heel, because she's a badass. And I think that's the sweet spot. We talk about it with certain superstars all the time. So I'm okay with how they're booking this, because Ronda's Ronda, man. Like there'll be some towns like in the Midwest or whatever where she's going to get big pops. But then in like, the bigger cities, she's probably going to get booed out of the building. So, but I do like the way they did it. It was an interesting twist for a match that we probably didn't think much of going into the card.
I will say this much. I was sitting there chomping at the bit when I was watching it. I'm like, oh my God, I cannot wait to see what Shayna says on Monday. And then when she came out on Monday, I know we're kind of like blurring the lines here between Money in the Bank recap and what's shine worthy, but I just thought that Shayna Baszler did a fantastic job. And for her friend to just sit there and shut up and let her talk shit to her was like, that's love. Like that is like a level of loyalty and understanding that she is going to put her friend over in the best way possible. And the crowd didn't want Shayna to begin with, but now they do. And they didn't want Ronda still. She's Ronda lousy, but it's just, she's done her part so well. And I think the fact that she didn't talk in that promo on Monday and let Shayna vent her feelings, it was perfect. I think it was wonderful. And I think everybody's in the same boat here. SummerSlam, fight pit. Let's do it.
Oh yeah, let's
do it.
I do. And Ronda, I think, will put her over big if that truly is the end, because I think you hit it on the head. Like, we like to make a fun of Ronda on this program. No, she's not the most popular, but for me personally, I've always, like, since she's been here for the most part, like, she has tried her best to try to make everyone better. We saw her literally, the stuff she did for Liv last year and just making her try to as best she could in that run. But it's just, Ronda does have this sour note with her with wrestling fans, and that stink will probably never get off her. So it is nice to see that at least she's going to be able to put her friend in a good position on her way out.
So I have a hot topic idea real quickly, and I know the answer is probably a no, but I do want to bring this up. before Ronda Rousey, excuse me, I need water. Before,
Here.
before thanks. Sorry.
Are you not prepared? You don't have any water there?
Dude, my kids are still here. If I go out, I'm screwed. You're gonna end up seeing like literal Nestlemania running wild behind me. So before Ronda Rousey, the women weren't necessarily taken as seriously. They definitely weren't main eventing. They main evented WrestleMania because of Ronda Rousey. She opened up the floodgates. They had a women's pay-per-view. She's progressed the women's evolution probably the most, besides Becky Lynch, I would say, and probably Bianca Belair, a host of others as well. But Ronda was the catalyst for everything. Now that she's gone, do you think that there is going to be a gap in terms of the presentation of the women?
No, okay. I don't. But I do think I'm glad that you're bringing this up because I think Ronda's legacy in wrestling is going to age over time better, like a fine wine, because I think you kind of like hit on it there. Like, I think the 4 horsewomen kind of laid the groundwork, but they needed something to really get them over the edge. Because as great as those 4 women were and the other women around them, like the Alexas and stuff that deserve some praise too, they needed something to catapult them up. And Ronda Rousey was that catapult, was that catalyst, and it set the foundation for the Biancas and the Rheas to come in after and take advantage and take that ball and run with it and bring it even to a bigger level. So I do think like in 10, 20 years, wrestling fans will look more fondly on the Ronda Rousey run than they do now, because obviously like you see a lot of the little stuff, which is obviously a problem with her in the short term, but over time, I think we'll see more of the impact that she made and kind of give her due over time. So I do think that was important that you hit on that, but yeah, it's I don't think it's going to fall off because I think we're here now. I think they have their stars. Bianca and Rhea are the 2 young ones that aren't going anywhere anytime soon. There's plenty of other, I mean, look down at NXT. They got a freaking whole stable of absolute studs. They got some that are slowly filtering up onto the main roster. They got more depth in the divisions than they've ever had. They have a tag division even still. It's just like, I think they've set the nice foundation, and I think they still have the top tier woman to continue to keep building and building for it.
That's fair. I was wondering your thoughts on it because I assume it's a no because we're already past it, you know, but yeah. I think it bears repeating of like, without her, there is no women main eventing. And
100%. Yes.
So I just think
was that catapult.
As much as we don't like to give her credit, I think we should, because on her way out, she is doing the opposite of what people are complaining about. She was winning, and now she's losing. So I think she's doing it the right way, and I think she's doing it the best she possibly can. I'm not a big fan of her, but I can see the value in that person and what she's doing. So I just think it's important to at least, you know, give a strong critique of the person. We'll probably do that once she's done. Moving on, Gunther taking on your boy, Matt Riddle, not your boy, anybody's boy, your bro.
He's our bro, man. He's our bro.
I mean, you know, you can beat the living crap out of anybody in any way you want to, but when he started slapping his foot, all I could think about was you. I was like, first off, JC hates feet.
I do.
You hate feet.
It's part of the Riddle gimmick, though, so I can, with him, I forgive it. Because you know what? I know it's easy to shit on Riddle, but I think Riddle is one of those guys that I think we're at the point now where he doesn't get enough credit, because you show me a bad Riddle performance, I think that'll be like the first one. Because I mean, it's just, that's why I was excited for this match. In terms of like looking at this card, it's probably one of the ones that stands out the least, just because I think everything else was so good and you got ladder matches and whatever. But I think it's just one of those, like, you got Gunther going back overseas. You want someone who can really hang with him and hard hit, and Riddle's that. And yeah, he's weird, but it's one of those things, like, even when it seems like we're out on Riddle, just watch his reactions and his entrance every time, man. That guy is still popular. People still love him. He still has those awkward backstage segments that are somehow endearing. But, huge Wayne. What's up, my friend?
Huge Wang. Stink face Kate. He's back. That's fine. So yes, I tend to agree this was a good match. I just, like you said, it fell in kind of like the category of no man's land because of how many amazing things were going to happen. We don't want to bury the lead because I'd be accused of somebody who's not in the chat today.
Someone returned, right? Nestla, I asked you last week if he was going to return. You said, I never want to see him again. And that was enough to bring him back immediately.
I know. It's like the reverse Beetlejuice or something every time I open my mouth. The thing is here's the thing. I was excited the second like he came out. I'm like, okay, cool. Like a cool match between the two will be great. But then all I thought was, oh God, please don't give him the Intercontinental Championship. Just don't. Just don't. Because
if someone's got to end the reign, he's probably on that short list.
Thank you, Wes, for saying I'm a Scott shamer. Appreciate it. You can go fuck yourself. No, I'm just kidding. But here's
Danny's
the
not
thing.
here, so the chat's gonna
I
pick
know.
up the
They're all
slack.
gonna pile it on because Danny's not here. So Danny sets the precedent. So my other thought was like Drew McIntyre. They always say, learn a new hold. Like go away and learn a new hold. And I hope he does. But also in the second part of my brain, because I did the math, Gunther is 66 days away, 65 now, I believe, days away from tying the Honky Tonk Man's all-time Intercontinental reign record. I assume he's going to beat that. So in my head, I'm like, okay, I think we're okay. McIntyre's not going to win or not win on the first try here. But after September 8th, then the bets are off. Like, I'm okay with anybody beating Gunther. I don't care. But I think Gunther has pled the case here. He is the body of work. Again, I'm not a Gunther fan, but I enjoy his matches. Hard hitting stuff. I think I just love Imperium in general. And
I
I'm
love
honestly,
Imperium too.
I think Vinci doesn't get enough credit. We know Ludwig is just on another fucking level. Like,
Well, I mean, those are two of my guys.
but
I
like,
have a man crush on Ludwig.
oh, I know. I mean, I would be Ludwig's best friend if I could. But it's like, so he's part of the reason why I love Imperium. And then I'm like, Vinci was doing so much great stuff on NXT before he came up. So he made me want to watch him with that gimmick. And then when they say no personality, I'm like, well, clearly you're not watching on Tuesdays because that guy had a great gimmick. It was wonderful. And then the presentation's great. So, but Gunther needs to beat the Honky Tonk Man's record, bar none, because it's time to update the record. But it's better to have somebody in that record book that it doesn't come out with a lot of controversy, I guess, or somebody that is well liked by a lot of people in the
And
wrestling
I
community.
think it's one of those. I think it's important because I think this was a guy in Gunther when we first started to see him come up on NXT UK. I remember immediately going like, he's like the perfect guy to come into the main roster and have a dominant lawn intercontinental reign. And it just made sense, like because he in the intercontinental title made so much sense. And then from there, sky's the limit. Because I do think we agree at some point down the line. I mean, probably this Royal Rumble, he's going to be one of the favorites because he obviously had his star making moment last year in it. Then there with Cody. So I think he honestly, if I was making like betting odds, he'd probably be my favorite to win the Royal Rumble right now. So I think either before then or around then is the time they could probably have him lose this, or maybe it's on the road to WrestleMania or something because they can do that easily. But I would say that I would be shocked if McIntyre beat him at SummerSlam. Could McIntyre still beat him? Sure. Because you could pull some bullshit at SummerSlam. There's going to be 12 matches or whatever. So you can easily have one with a little bit of nonsense going on here and set up a rematch. Maybe McIntyre beats him later. So I think McIntyre could still be the guy because like you kind of look at the Raw roster and there's not a ton of names that jump out as me as guys to beat Gunther. But McIntyre would be a guy that would be at the top of the list.
Moving on, we have Cody versus Dom in a cat and mouse game. To me, this was exactly what it was supposed to be. It wasn't whelming or underwhelming. It was just there. I guess it was whelming, not over or under. It was just whelming. It was a thing. They did a good job, but again, it served its purpose, and we move on from it. I don't really want to spend too much
I
time
think
on
the
it, but
star of this match was the crowd. Like
I
this
think
was
so.
in terms of like watching the entire pay-per-view, this was the match where I thought the crowd was at its best because obviously we talked about it going in. You have the number one babyface versus the number one heel from Monday Night Raw, and the crowd sold it. The Cody pops and Cinelons and these entrances with these big crowds, they like give me life. I feel like I get so much vitality from it. And like you said, like the cat and mouse game was perfect. Dom being a coward, Cody doing his thing. Cody got the win he needed, but like the crowd was the star of the show, as they should be when you get two guys like this.
I think London doesn't get enough credit in general because I think we'll talk about it, I'm sure, after this. Maybe we will when we talk about the next thing, but it is what it is.
We can talk about it with the next thing, yeah.
But I will say London did a great fucking job. So then we have a surprise here with Mr. Come out, which surprised me. I didn't watch it live, but when I felt it, I was like, that's pretty cool. But it was so much fun to see him do that, and then to say something along the lines of like, hey, you guys have usually told me I've sucked for 20 years and like I'm taken aback right now that you're cheering me. This is very odd and I love it. But then he pleaded his case. He came out there and he said, I'm here to get WrestleMania into London. And this is probably a longer conversation. WrestleMania in London, it's a big deal. Now we know that it's in Philadelphia next year. I think somebody said there's already a bid for 41 and maybe 42.
This would be at the earliest, probably 3 years down the line.
Yeah, which I tend to agree that it absolutely. We talked about it last week. Royal Rumble. I think any PLE, with the exception of WrestleMania, is on the table right now. Like right now, can happen anytime, anywhere. It doesn't matter. But when he said the thing about you guys don't necessarily understand that the people back there don't want it, and I went like, I get what we're doing here. And then if you watch the WrestleMania, the Money in the Bank presser, Triple H said, like, John Cena's putting me in a tough spot. I tend to think that they wouldn't have sent John Cena out there without him
Yeah,
saying it.
they're
So,
working us,
yeah.
baby.
So for me, I would say it's not off the board. But for me, I would say it isn't going to happen in the next 5 years. I would say
See,
after 5 years, maybe.
I think it might happen in the next 5 years because I think this was just genius by the WWE, and I think this is something you see like big companies do like this all the time. And I think now that they're part of Endeavor, like this is the kind of shit that they pull with Dana and UFC all the time, trying to set stuff up. Is especially because we had like a little private talk in our thread, obviously with our boy Danny who lives over there. And it's just like obviously like London is a tourist destination in general, and you have to pay a lot of money and stuff to get this, even though it can be very good as well. But I think that's kind of the angle WWE is going for here. It's like, okay, we're going to send Cena out there. We're going to let him take the brunt of it so it doesn't look like we're doing it. Triple H in his press conference is going to be like,
I don't know what happened. Looks like he's gone. All right. That's great. I guess he left. You back?
no, I didn't leave. You booted me. I'm back.
I'm not booting you. I would never
Well,
boot you. You're in the middle of a tyrant.
yeah, literally just like cut out. But now I'm back. As I was saying, I don't even, what was I saying?
Something
Oh,
about taking the heat.
Oh yeah, so with I think that coming out of Money in the Bank, I think this was a calculated tactical thing because one of the major headlines now is creating buzz about a WrestleMania in London. So I think this was a move to put a little pressure like on the entire city and their government and everything to be like to kind of create a buzz and let like pretty much be like, hey fans, tell them you want this. So the city will make a bid in the next, like you said, 5 years. And if it isn't 5 years, I think 6, 7, 8, I think this will happen. And I think that's what it was all about. I think this was a tactical ploy. I think it was obviously purposely done. Cena's the perfect guy to go out there and do it. And they can like sell it as he's going rogue. But we all know like this stuff doesn't happen. It doesn't happen unless they want it to. So I think it's happening. And I'll even say, I'll say it'll happen in the next 5 years. Why not?
So the one thing I did want to break up with people, and they're going to be upset with me over it because obviously they like to give me shit. But for me, I look at it like, and I think Danny made this point. So I think Danny made a point of saying like London's already one of the biggest tourist attractions in the world. So they don't necessarily, the people that are in charge of London wouldn't spring for the money right away to have this tourist attraction when they think they're fine on their own. The other thing I would bring up is when you have cities in America or even the Canadian, people up top and even Mexico, somebody like anybody around the United States, they're buying, they're vying and buying these times and saying like, oh, we're putting in a bid. We're putting in a bid. I feel like anybody that crossed the Atlantic Ocean would then have to have a ridiculous amount of money.
100%.
They would overpay for it like nobody's business because
think of all the expenses they're going to have to do to pull it off. Yeah.
Exactly. And I think that's the other thing too. It's like you have to fly in the sets. With the rings are there, you have to fly in the set. You have to fly in the people like weeks in advance.
They could probably build the set over there.
Yeah.
But it's just like either way, it's
There's
costing
so
them
much
more money.
more.
So yeah, that's why the bid will be more. But I think that's why WWE pulls the move like this because they want to put the pressure on them so they are willing to pay it because you got to create the demand. You got to create the demand. And you saw like coming out that entire presser, it felt like Cody even got asked about it. Like it was most of the things Triple H was asked about. So it was definitely a tactical thing to kind of set the buzz, to kind of set the stage. So hopefully in the next 5, 6, 7, 8 years that London is willing to pay the piper, so to speak. And I honestly think it'll work. But I do love the way they did this segment, obviously, because we haven't even talked about my boy Grayson Waller getting the Cena rub, baby. And it's like this guy every week is just like you can tell they really value him. And even though we haven't really seen the full Grayson Waller effect on the main roster, it's like he's with Cena on a major PLE right here. He has Edge on SmackDown coming up this week. We know he can't wrestle yet, but he got physical with Cena, so he must have been cleared. So we're getting closer. And I do kind of like this because when I'm looking at Cena matches now, it's like the Theory one at Mania. Those are more the ones I want to see is give me someone who can give me the lead in with Cena on the mic. We know Waller's proven over NXT the last couple of years that he's one of the best heels on the mic. So whether this is a feud at another pay-per-view or if it's at WrestleMania down the line, like Cena Waller is something I want to see because it's all about that mic work. When you get to the match, it'll be like the Theory match. It'll be what it'll be. We know Cena's getting older, but for Cena feuds, we need people that can hang with him on the mic or they're just going to get eaten alive and Waller's the guy who will be able to handle his own.
He handled that really just gracefully with they called him a wanker, and he goes, "I don't need the help." Like, I just was
Yeah.
like, what a great but he kept his own on like, he kept in on Cena. He kept the crowd at bay, which 2 of those are the best. The crowd is one of the best in the world, and Cena's one of the best in the world. So it was like a 2-on-1, and he still did a fantastic job, and I can't say enough good things about him. The one thing that makes me completely nervous about Grayson Waller going forward is he's got a thing with Edge on Friday. I'm like, oh my God, is Grayson Waller going to be the one to retire Edge? Like, that seems kind of weird to me, but I can
I don't
see
think
like,
he will be, but
but I can see like a Grayson Waller effect with Edge, and then the next week it's a cutting edge with Grayson Waller. Like, I can see shit like that lining up, and I can see things happening like that because they're very similar, but also different in many different ways.
I feel like Waller is going to be more like he'll have a match with Edge probably on a SmackDown, and he'll probably give Edge a big win going into whoever he's fighting at SummerSlam. That's more what it feels like, because I think I like how they're doing it with Waller. They're not giving us too much too soon. They're easing it in. Obviously, it was because of the injury, but let him rub elbows with all these top stars. Waller's a guy who has proven he can go in a losing streak, and it don't mean a damn thing. Long term, he'll get there, but I would be very surprised if his feud was Edge going into like a SummerSlam or something. I'd be thrilled with it. It would make me care about an Edge feud, but I feel like he'd be more of like, kind of like the role Miz plays a lot of the time, where he's kind of the guy that takes the lumps to prop up the babyface going into their big match.
Okay. Moving on, we get to the women's Money in the Bank here. Not much to say. I thought this was one of the best Money in the Banks from the women I've seen. The finish,
even with Trish.
The finish was great. Well, so Trish is Trish. Trish is gonna slip on a banana peel, and it is what it is.
She did a few times.
Like, I think what the problem is her move set is so 2000 and late.
Oh God.
So just trying
did
to
you
say.
did you see so my favorite spot? First of all, there are 2 Bailey things that were my favorite.
The fucking
Bailey's. Well, yes. But first off, in Bailey's entrance, did you hear what Samantha said? A rare slip up.
Day, yeah.
She said representing the Judgment Day. So that made me giggle a little. I'm like, well, that'd be a lot better if she was in Judgment Day and Damage Control. But the other one was like Trish was like doing something on the ladder, and she was clearly like supposed to do a Hurricanrana or something to Bailey, and she's just kind of flailing there, being Trish. So Bailey just goes in and gives herself the move and rolls out of the ring. I was fucking pissing myself dying because I'm like, Bailey is so fucking good, and she's willing to make an ass out of herself, but she's like, this is what's supposed to happen. Fucking Trish is Trish, so I'm just gonna do the move to myself. And I probably cackled for a good 5 minutes. That to me, like, of anything, obviously the finish and everything, and I'm very happy EO won. That's what I wanted, but Bailey doing that move to herself was one of the fucking highlights for me from this.
It felt like it was the Trish and Becky show for the most of it, and then it was like Bailey double crossed at the end, and it was just like, I felt bad for Zelina, I felt bad for Zoe, I felt bad for whoever else was in that match that didn't get a lot of time. Like, it felt weird.
Don't even remember.
No, I don't. I'm sorry. Like,
it was just the 6 of them. It was the 2 Damage Control, the Becky, Trish, Zoe trio, and then Zelina. Yeah.
But I just felt like it was a great match, though. The Becky thing was funny at the end with I thought that was ingenious with the handcuffs.
The handcuffs, yeah.
And I think Io got her shit back, and it's wonderful. I don't necessarily love that they're like together holding the case, but that's beside the point.
See, I think that makes it a little more interesting, which is why this one might have a little more staying power than the typical women's ones, because they kind of came out for the presser together, and I think like Io, it's that moment of overcoming Bailey that is really gonna cement her as a babyface, because she's still probably in the heel category, even though we're all cheering her. But I think it's an interesting dynamic, because it's kind of similar to like the Christian Luchasaurus thing in AEW, which I'll talk about a little later, because they fucking on Rampage, they're just pulling at JC's heartstrings with that one, that segment, but we'll get there. But it's kind of like, I kind of like the idea of like them being like, oh yeah, Io won it for us and this, and Bailey like having a thing, because I like having a little extra sometimes with the briefcase, especially when we have 2 going forward. I feel like Priest is the one that might be sooner. So I wouldn't mind if for once the woman got, because wasn't Carmella the one who held it the longest, and she did it at SummerSlam, which was like a month or 2 later anyway. So I wouldn't mind Io having a little staying power. I think her being linked with Bailey makes it an interesting dynamic to a group that has been much maligned. I think it gives it a lot more intrigue. And judging by
what word did you just use?
Maligned.
Maligned?
You've never heard the word maligned? Jesus.
What is this dictionary? What is this
gumption? You've never heard of maligned? Maligned is a very normal word.
I don't think so.
God, I have to educate Nestle on this program too.
Simpleton.
You've never heard much maligned?
No.
You're a simpleton. Yeah, clearly.
I clearly am. I'm gonna go back.
I'm disappointed in you, Adam.
Who the fuck is Adam? I have I have a very extensive vernacular, but not that.
Oh yeah, here you pull out like vernacular. Yeah, Bertsky. I'm not surprised you never heard of it. You didn't know what gangrene was or anything like that
Whoa,
either.
whoa,
So.
whoa! Listen, maybe it's an Adam thing, but I'm gonna defend Bertsky here.
Oh,
I think
Nestle. See, this is where you're gonna get yourself into trouble because Bert's never heard of like anything apparently. So
listen.
careful,
I'm just saying
careful.
on this occasion, I believe on 4th of July, let's have a little decorum here. I'm just saying that
Decorum, fuck decorum. I'm
I'm
gonna
just
be
gonna.
like the Iron Sheik all over you, bitch.
Hey! Listen,
R.I.P. to a
listen.
true American hero, the Iron Sheik.
The true American era. Listen, I would put out a poll. Go ahead, put out a poll and see how many people actually know that word. I'm
The
just
word
saying.
maligned. It's
Yes.
a
Put
very
out a
common
poll.
word.
Put out a poll. I would guarantee you it's less people than you think know that word.
I'm just glad I was able to educate you on more than just wrestling on this program for once, because you clearly have a lot to learn, as we know by your takes. So I'm just glad to be the one to give you a little edumacation here on the 4th of July, because I know school's out, so no Nestle in class right now. So gotta give you, a little bit. That's my holiday gift to you. My red, white, and blue fact of the day for Nestlemania.
Red, white, black, and blue. No, that's fine. Okay, where the fuck were we? Oh,
I don't know. I was just gonna say, like, we're clearly headed to like a triple threat. It feels like with Charlotte, Bianca, and Asuka for that title. So obviously Io can play a factor there, but I feel like it's more Asuka escapes with it, and then I think eventually Io probably will cash in on Asuka because I feel like Bianca Charlotte like that feels like down the line in triple threat, whatever. So I would like to see Io kind of run with it a little bit because it's not something we've seen, and that's why I like the Bailey dynamic.
I really think if I was booking this, right, I think this stinks of, and this is a good stink, not a bad stink, like the backcracker. He probably hasn't wiped his ass in like 50 years. But anyway,
Jesus.
that's beside the point. He just looks like a stinky bear. Look at him. Anyway, but that's beside the fact.
Stinky bear?
Yeah, he just looks like a bear. I don't know.
He's very clean when he cracks my back. So
well, that's good. At least he's doing that particularly well. But other than that, not so much. Anyway, going back to my original point, this reeks of Bianca Belair being pissed off of not getting her title back, and then in a random way doing a KOD on Asuka, and then Io slides in, and we have Asuka versus Io, and that's a feud I want to see anyway. And I see that Batista assist from CM Punk thing all over again for Io to get her babyface turn and then have these amazing matches with Asuka. I would say that was where if I was seeing it, because I think Rhea is kind of in this weird kind of thing right now, but to me, I feel like Asuka versus Io seems way cooler to me than Rhea and Io.
I think we'll get a little bit of all of it. Because I think Io is someone who could have like a Lon Reign and feud with all three of them at some point. So that would be interesting. But Nestlemania, that brings us to the next match. And this one, like obviously anytime Finn Balor wrestles Seth, I'm going to watch. And I loved it. I thought they had a very solid match, but just the part in the card they were in, I had a little bit of fatigue at this point, but it went as we kind of predict. Well, I mean, I know I picked Finn Balor, but that was more of picking with right here. But we obviously had the Priest tease, and Priest inadvertently or advertently, however you want to put it, cost him the match, and obviously he paid it back, whatever, on Monday. So that, like we talked about earlier, this sets up the whole thing. But I don't know if you have any more to add on this type of stuff.
I just wrote there was a good match, but they were in a tough spot.
Yeah.
And I think that's really the whole thing. And I think that's where we are. Moving on.
I do think we can put this here just to kind of like tie up this thing and relate it to Cody, because with what happened on Monday. Well, did you see his presser?
Yes.
So they blatantly asked him, they said, would winning the World Heavyweight Championship be finishing the story? And he said no, because it's not the title of my dad, but he's like, it would be a nice prize to win. So I think there is a world where Cody wins this Cody consolation prize, and at WrestleMania, it's actually like him and like Gunther, instead of like in the Roman thing, is even more down the line. They might really be doing this for we just fucking drag this out for eternity, because they kind of, with that little thing, they kind of confirm the way we all kind of felt anyways, but it'd be like, yeah, he can win this consolation prize, even though it's a world title, it's not finishing the story. I'm just like, oh man, we might be a really far away now.
Well, you can listen to whoever you want to listen to. I think they have to pull the trigger at 40. They have to.
I thought they should have pulled it last year, so I feel like, yeah, I agree with you. So
I think it's like long overdue. And just, I don't know if you saw there was just to add on to something that I watched. It was him and I think your boy, Ariel, they were talking, and it was a very short interview, but he said, like, how did you feel after losing? And he's like, it sucked. He's like, He's like, Brody was there, my mother was there, my daughter,
Yeah.
my wife. He's like, my whole fucking support system's there. And I'm like, he's like, I'm sitting underneath the ramp going, this is gonna suck. This is gonna suck.
And to his credit, he didn't show it, man. He's a
And
fucking
the
pro,
funniest,
yeah.
the comments are hilarious because he said, I don't want to bitch about it. I just wanted to show up on Monday and fucking do my job. And then someone in the comments was like, but he's bitching about it now. And it's like, Jesus, like the poor guy's just trying to be
Warrior
professional.
13 there, Mr. fucking Mom's Basement Virgin Dork. Yeah, there.
Mom's Basement Virgin Dork. Wow, that's a lot. That might be a t-shirt. Mom's Basement
Virgin Dork. That's the arrow pointing up.
Like we got our new shirt, Mom's Basement Virgin Dork. Now on teampublic.com/Davinarker. But no, look, so we get to the main event here. Like, I think there's nothing else we can talk about, but we get
we're at the main
event, Civil War. You know, a lot of callbacks throughout this entire matchup with the nut shot, double chokes, the rock bottoms, the rock spitting. It was just like everything. They literally tied back to the beginning of this entire feud, 3 years of this happening. The crowd was into it. The crowd overtook the entire thing with stand up if you like or don't like Roman, or stand up if you hate Roman, then sit down if you don't like Roman. Like, they fucked with him so good. Put up your shoe. Like that one with the shoe made me go insane. I was like, this is why they need to be at WrestleMania doing this shit. And then he's like, I don't even like him. Like the way he was like, this is the stupidest place on earth. Like the way he was getting into it, playing with the crowd, doing a great job, doing character work, being on the outside was great. And then of course, you know, the Usos win in dramatic fashion, and you can debate it or whether or not that it's the right call. I personally believe it is because I said it on this program. No one else is going to say nice things about me, so
I will say this, Nestle, because here's the thing. I always want to say this to you. People would be able to give you credit if you weren't so quick to shower yourself in credit right away. I mean, you don't give me time to give you credit. I'm literally opening my mouth to give you credit. You're just like, me! But you did. You called it last week, so bravo. You know, every dog has its day. I'm proud of you.
So we can get past that now that I'm right. But the more important thing here, JC, is people are going to say it's not the right call. I believe if you're looking at this specifically, forget that we're watching wrestling for a second. Let's just take our eyes off it in that category. Look at it as a movie or a television show or something that you're just watching for entertainment purposes, right?
Top of the fifth.
Sure. Whatever that is. I think we're in the bottom of the fourth, honest to God.
You said bottom of the third at WrestleMania, so I'll be nice and say this was top of the fifth. We're halfway there.
When you get to the 7th inning stretch, I hope we get a fucking long stretch.
That's going to be like an 8-month vacation for him. Is the 7th inning stretch,
because he's going to be wintertime. He's going to take his kids to Disney World, but that's beside the point. So my original thought here is when you're watching something in a movie, like to me, the ones that make sense. This moment in a movie for me was when you realize the villain can be beaten. Right? Like, that doesn't necessarily mean like everything's going to happen, but that one moment, like, oh, he can flip on a banana peel. He isn't superhuman. He isn't God mode. He is a human being. That was what I thought this entire moment was about. And I think that's why it's important for whomever beats Roman Reigns for those championship, Cody, hopefully, if not somebody else, but they use that platform. They use that dissection and use it properly to realize what transpired to make Roman Reigns lose that matchup. And that's why I thought it was important. And I'm glad that Jay was the one to do it. I love that they were making the whole comments about you were going to be the tribal chief. We can kick off to Friday at Madison Square Garden. There's a tribal court. There's going to be everything we're interested in. So I just think they're going to pull out all the stops, at least till SummerSlam. Then after SummerSlam, God knows what the fuck's going to happen.
Yeah, I'm assuming he'll go on a long break after SummerSlam, but I do think I think this was the right call, but for different reasons. And it was something that Usos said in one of their random promos leading up. I don't know what it was. It could have been 2 weeks ago, could have been last week, could have been 3 weeks ago. But they literally had the line, and this line was very important to me and why I think it was the right call and why it works. Said, Roman, tag team match is much different than a regular match, man. And we the best at that. We're the best at the tag matches. They're the Usos, the greatest tag team of all time. So I think that was important that when I heard that line, I'm like, okay, they've laid the groundwork at least where it would make perfect sense if they won. I still going in, if you made me pick, I said they'd pin Solo because I thought they'd just drag it out more, but I'm kind of glad they did it this way. I mean, again, it always comes back to why does he have the titles? This would have been fine with the titles, whatever, but I get it. Whatever. That's so far. We've beaten that horse into the ground. Like it is what it is. But I do think I agree with it, that it was the right time just for that reason, it being a tag match. And like you said, it being Jay. And now by having Jay pin Roman, I think that's important because it's set up at SummerSlam where I do believe we're going to get Roman versus Jay for the title. And I think the only way you could sell that to me, I really wanted to see it, even though we know Roman will retain somehow, probably by cheating like he does every event. But it was sold to me because Jay pinned him in this match. So now you have that feud. It's set up. Heyman was very good during this match, getting in Roman's ear, being like, do you want your kids sitting at his table? Do you want him to be the tribal chief for your kids? I'm like, stuff like that. It makes it work because it builds it up where obviously this is a Roman and Solo versus the Usos, but it's always kind of been a Roman Jay thing. So I think now they've laid the groundwork for SummerSlam, probably the main event, because like Roman's the main event, Roman Jay for the undisputed whatever fucking trio championship of Roman's cuckness. I don't know, but I think they laid it. Triple gold. I think they sold me on it. So I think that was for different reasoning than you. I thought it was the right time.
Okay. So overall, Money in the Bank, great job. I thought it was an A effort. I thought it was great.
I'd go A-. I thought it was great. But I mean, I think my expectations for WWE are so high because I think they've really risen the bar the last few between WrestleMania and the Puerto Rico event. And that they've set their expectations so much higher for me now. So for you to get an A or an A+, like it's got to be incredible. And this was great. So I'm giving it an A-. But yeah, no, I don't think there was much downtime in this. I think even the matches that weren't meant to be much were still entertaining, and they mixed in the Cena stuff, and the crowd was amazing. So yeah, I give it a solid A-. I really enjoyed it.
All right, 46 minutes into this program, we can start to shine now.
Well, the nice thing is we did hit on a lot of the stuff like Judgment Day and Ronda and Shayna, so we don't really have to go back to those. So looking at my notes here, I think just to like kind of like put a bow on the some of the main event stuff on Raw is I think I saw you tweet it too. I love the opening to Raw because I love when they give us little teases like this. Obviously, Seth comes out, does his thing, yada, 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 and he's interrupted by Cody. Place went nuts. I went nuts. I'm like, man, I know they're not doing this right now, but I love that they're at least having the interaction. And Cody literally, I think, got 3 words out before Brock's music hit, and they go whoop, 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 off on their own. But I thought it was a creative way to set up Cody Brock 3 by teasing Cody Seth, because it goes back to what I brought up with the presser, that I think they could still do Cody Seth at some point and have him win it and still do the story. I don't know if they will. I don't know if that's fully what I want, but I think they could do it. But it's just like one of those things. We know Cody's the top fucking contender on that show, but I like that Brock continues to get in his way for the title. So once he gets through Brock at SummerSlam, it'll be interesting to see if it does lead him to the title or not.
Fair enough. From a Cody boy.
Yep.
I don't have much else to say about it because I just thought it was great. I love that they teased everything, but I think keeping Cody and Seth separate is important. Like I think, I think, and this is not an original thought, but the longer you keep Cody away from that consolation prize, the more equity there is in that championship, especially the longer that Seth holds it. Yeah. The next person that holds it is not going to be higher than Seth unless it's a Brock or Cody. That's it. Like there's nobody higher than Seth in that aspect. And I don't think Brock would get it right away. So I feel it's
going to Priest next. I think Priest will really get it, which I'm fine with. He can have it and then he can lose it to maybe Finn. He's the one who loses it to Cody. Yeah. If you know, who knows, but we'll see. But the only other real shine, well, I have 2 more things to shine, but the only other thing from WWE shine wise is, man, you know how happy it makes me, Nestlemania, to see these huge babyface reactions for the Alpha Academy and for the crowd in Baltimore, not Baltimore, as we'll get to later, being red hot for Otis and Gable and Maxine, man. It's just like it's working. They took something that was a good idea and they just like evolved with it. And you know what? This is where the money is. It's like, instead of having Maximum Male Models suck up Otis, we're just going to have the Alpha Academy suck up Maxine. And it was like, she made her debut. She got the win. I thought it was a lot of fun. Her doing the most awkward worm ever with Otis cheering her on. Gable getting to do all his Gable things. The crowd being red hot for Gable, doing all his shooshes and thank yous. It's just like, this is what, as someone who will always be a Chad Gable guy, he's always going to be one of like my secret favorites. Always has been, always will be. It makes me happy to see it working. Maxine's obviously, we've seen her. We obviously, you know, she caught our attention for other reasons, but I think she's someone that has really evolved the more we see her on TV. She's really leaned into the comedy stuff and it works. Like we saw a little thing, like one of my favorite gifs when she's dancing to the Hit Row music all awkwardly, like typical white girl, and seeing her now just perfectly blending with Gable and Otis. It was cool to see her get in there, get a win. And you know what? Maybe she's the future champion to take down Rhea, baby.
I wouldn't go that far, but it was very impressive. I thought that
A 6-man tag in the Shine.
I cannot. This might be the exception to the rule. This might be the exception. But when I watched the three of them, I mean, the Vikings did their part too. Let's not downplay that. The Vikings and even Valhalla, did a great job. They did a great job. So all six of the dance partners did a great job. But that packaging of him with the dad hat before being like, you don't like my coaching? You don't like my wrestling? Like the way he did it, I was just like, how can you not like this guy is electric. And then he gets in the room and he gets in the ring and he's just more electric. I just was like, my face was about to melt with just a smile because like the thank yous and the shooshes and then the fucking worm and then she does the worm, everything about the package. And then they roll out after she wins. She gets the fucking Elizabeth treatment on the shoulders. I'm sitting there and I'm just like, this isn't going to happen every week, thank God. But I'm glad it won't happen every week because then it takes away from its specialness. But now I know she can't have a whole match yet, but she can do fun parts like this. And I think that's the trick here is like keep her where she is. Don't put her in a match yet by herself. You know, like let her grow organically so that she can do it because she's doing a great job. She's again, Gable is really the reason everything works. I think that's what the heart of it is that Gable. He makes that. He has made the bottom of the hour his bitch.
Yep.
You know what I mean? He has.
I just love that it's working with the crowd responses because I've been into it the whole time, but I just love that they've done such a good job. It's translated. The last bit of shine I really have, I'm actually jumping to AEW Collision, which Nestlemania. I can't believe I'm about to say this, but
3 weeks.
I know it's only been 3-4 weeks. I think Collision might be my favorite weekly show now. Wow. It is literally 2 hours of Tony Khan jerking me off with my favorite things. Like literally, like it is the complete opposite of fucking Dynamite, which I get so much trouble week to week where there's like a couple things that I enjoy, but mostly it's just fucking slapping me in the face the whole time. Tony Khan going, but this one is just Tony Khan reaching down and hitting me in the good spots. I mean, I know you said you haven't seen it yet, but the Ethan Page promo on MJF in his hometown and then the match was fucking superb. It was awesome if you're an illegal fan. He did a great job. Dustin and Hobbs had no business having a fucking banner that they had and for the Owen Hart tourney. Fucking incredible TV match. Check it out. But Nestlemania, this is what put me over the top. This was the pinnacle of JC's viewing experience. There was a backstage segment with Christian and Luchasaurus, and they were interrupted by Sean Spears. And it just was like Spears just trying to challenge Luchasaurus, but Christian acting like he's the champion, whatever, and him be like, I'm trying to talk. It was just like, again, it was just like deep down in my pants, pulling it out and going to town because this whole show is just an homage to me. I fucking love Collision. I don't know if you guys have checked it out yet, but in terms of AEW stuff, like it's a lot more closer to a WWE style featuring a lot of these AEW guys. And I mean, I don't think it's by mistake because you have Punk and FTR and Miro and Andrade, and then Ethan Page fits that. But the MJF stuff was great because it was obviously his Collision debut. Top to bottom, for the most part, this show is just a joy for me to watch. And like I said, it might have jumped NXT in my power rankings, which is tough because NXT has been my favorite show for like 2 years running. So
I guess it's safe to say that JC now stands for Just Collision.
Oh, yeah. Just Collision.
Just Collision.
Just Collision all over me, baby.
Yeah, Collision.
It's such a joy.
I will say the first week was fucking gangbusters. I loved it. The second week I kind of trailed off with the 8-man tag. I thought that was a little much.
No, there's still plenty of AEW bullshit you got to get through. But the show feels different. It doesn't feel like an AEW show.
And that's great. That's wonderful because I feel like less AEW makes better things. Like,
yeah, it's good that it has a different feel. Like Raw and SmackDown have different feels. Sure. Collision and Dynamite should too.
I did want to put I just thought that Pretty Diddley did a great job with Sammy and KO. I want to put that in my shine. Great match. I'm glad that they didn't win because I feel like it would have got lost in translation at this point. They definitely seem like the people to do it if it's not Imperium. But I just the disco ball and the ABBA music, it felt like it was just like, how can you not fall in love with this entire presentation? It's just wonderful. So I thought it was great. And again, master storytelling by KO. People are concerned about his ankle. He was working it, folks. But the fact that you fell for it is just like, that's why he is who he is. He's just fantastic at his job. So I just want to make sure we say that because they weren't even on the pay-per-view. Well, they were with talking, but they weren't really in a match. So I just thought that was a pay-per-view quality match that kicked off SmackDown in a major way, which was pretty amazing.
Yep, I agree. I had that in my shine as well. But that's
anything else?
I had.
Get him off my TV. Get him off my TV. Get him off my TV. Would you like to start? Because you have stuff you want to get off your chest.
I mean, look it. The idea of this match, I am all for because it's highlighting. I thought Raw was overall. I thought Raw was a very entertaining show. I know we didn't put a ton of it in the shine, but we kind of overlapped a little bit of it with the pay-per-view. And this, like, I like that they were all getting an opportunity, but this tag team turmoil, from not making any sense to how they booked it, was a fucking shit show. I will say, once again, much like the Trish spot in Money in the Bank, my favorite part of this whole fucking thing was Tegan Knox goes into the corner waiting for a Dana Brooke tag. And Dana Brooke's just kind of like looking around like clueless. And Tegan goes, tag me! She's like screaming at her like 3 times. Finally, Dana's like, oh, sorry. And then tags it. And I was just like, dear fucking God. Poor Tegan. Dear God. It's just like Dana. It's like, I don't like to shit on Dana because it's an easy thing to do. And, you know, whatever. And people were over in NXT. I didn't think she did a terrible job. But man, there are just so many moments like this. It's like, you don't have the cachet of Trish when you can get away with it. So it was tough, but it wasn't just her. This whole thing felt weird. The booking of it was weird too. I'm thrilled for Chelsea and Sonya, but having like the like shit eating heels who like to cheat a lot, running the gauntlet and beating everyone was an interesting booking decision because I think our boy Guthrie even tweeted this, and I kind of share. Look at Guthrie, I'm giving you props. I kind of shared the same sentiment. I would have assumed that Caden and Katana run the gauntlet and then lose to the heels at the end, but I guess like that's more predictable. So this is different, but it's just like all the other teams in it were fucking random. They couldn't do an Italia tag team partner. So her and Zoe Stark down the line, you guys will be in this match. But I mean, this thing was just a rough watch, unfortunately.
I mean, I was upset that Indy looked as bad as she did. She clearly
they were eliminated picture in picture, weren't they?
Yeah, they were, and it was a jobber alert too. That was the only one that was a jobber. Most of these eliminations were mostly over, just
Jobber
over
alerts,
3,
yeah.
just over. I couldn't do it, but it was only the one. But the real tag team of Indy and Candice was out first, and then it was like the hodgepodge tag team forever. Then we got, you know,
Nikki and Emma.
yeah, which whatever. Which to me was like, why don't you put Dana and Emma together? They were a tag team in NXT. They did a whole thing. Like, there's some synergy there. Let's like bring that back. But no, we're not doing that. I wouldn't, because at least it's something like low ball. Like it's whatever. It is what it is. But yeah, I just didn't love it, and I think it was bad. It was just bad across the board, and I think especially if it's going to be Rhea and Raquel at SummerSlam, I feel like these women's tag titles are going to take even a bigger backseat because this was a glaring issue going forward.
I think they have the TV feud up now for the next few weeks. It'll be Chelsea and Sonya because, like I mentioned with Money in the Bank, there weren't any women's singles matches on Money in the Bank. Like Rhea and Charlotte defended, or Jesus, I'm already putting Charlotte as a champion. Asuka defended on SmackDown, and Rhea obviously defended on this Raw. So obviously SummerSlam, you can't book all the titles. So I don't mind if like on TV they're defending the tag titles and they pick it up again after, if just for SummerSlam they're on the card. Because again, we saw the Raw women's division in that match. You think any of them are ready to face Rhea? No, it's got to be Raquel or Liv.
It just sucks because I feel like it's just like they don't put enough equity in the other people to like build them up with these bottom of the hour things to then push them up to a contenders match that makes sense. Like they did a great job with Zelina Vega, but they like when she was facing, you know, Rhea, but like they didn't use that formula for any of these women. And singles wise, I can see Candice, I can see Indy, I can see Emma. Not now, but with time and effort, you can see the value in them. But so we talk about this. Did you guys talk about Natalya? Is she ever going to go away? I doubt it because she's the Guinness Book of World Records. It looks like there were 6 Guinness records she just got handed. It's impressive. She's the woman that trains most of the women that get to the main roster anyway. And
she's down at NXT all the time too with those girls. So they all speak so highly of her.
I mean, she's just got the lineage and the pedigree to continue going. I mean, not on TV. If you say go away on TV, I mean, to be honest with you, she doesn't really stay on TV to begin with.
Yeah, she's like kind of the plug and play. She's in that Dolph Ziggler role where she's not on, but then it's like we need a good first feud of Rhea. Because I will say this, like I'm 0% into this Natalya feud, but I did watch the match because I was on delay and people said it was good. It was a really fucking good match because Rhea's really good, and we know Natalya can accentuate that. So in the ring, I didn't mind it as one of the first Rhea defenses because it's a notch in the belt. But I mean, in terms of like the feud, it's just like I hope it's over because, you know.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot going on. I don't think there's anything else we can really talk about heat-wise specifically, except for I did want to bring this up because I felt like this was something that we should talk about. Kevin Nash brought up something about LA Knight.
Yeah. What? This can lead into my hope nicely too.
Okay. So LA Knight has been told by many people that he has stolen from The Rock in Austin. And apparently, Kevin Nash comes out and says, am I the only one thinks he's a complete ripoff? So with that, JC, I know you have some parting words that you would like to have to Mr. Nash. So I will leave you with the open floor.
What was the shirt that I came up with earlier?
Oh God, bargain basement
mother basement virgin dweller, some shit. Yeah, Kevin Nash, that's what you sound like with this, because you're making those. It's just like, this is the stupidest fucking thing I've ever heard in my life. Because what do you think wrestling is? It's all about fucking callbacks and whatever. LA Knight ripping off The Rock. Oh, you mean being a cocky asshole and being confident? That's not fucking stealing a gimmick. Here's the thing also. Everyone takes a little bit from everyone. Like, that's part of it. You put your own spin on it. Yeah. And I think LA Knight has definitely done enough of that. You're telling me like blending Austin and fucking The Rock and making it your own is a bad thing? Are you fucking kidding me? Look at the reactions this guy is getting. It's clearly fucking working. So who gives a shit? Kevin, I get so sick of this shit because, like, obviously I like to hear everyone's opinions. Obviously people have been in the business and have done it, but it's when you get shit like this, man, and you're just out here spewing in nonsense. It's just like, are you just jealous of the guy? Because that's what it sounds like to me. It sounds like you're just fucking jealous because this guy found a fucking formula that works for him. And here's the other thing. You can pull it off because people try shit all the time and they can't do. Guess what? LA Knight, yeah, home run. He can fucking do it. So I don't give a shit. If something's working, let him do it. Because they're like blatant ripoff. Shut the fuck up. Like, he blended two of the most over fucking baby faces and stars of all time and put his own spin on it. Like, that's a bad thing? Are you fucking kidding me? This was the dumbest fucking 24 hours on wrestling Twitter in a while. And that's saying something, because most 24 hours on that fucking cesspool is dumb. But good God, dude. Like, just come on with it. Just shut the fuck up.
So I do want, that's a great clip. I'm going to leave it. I'm going to make sure I clip it for later. But I did want to say this because Dom and I went down a rabbit hole very quickly. And I just wanted to say, like, these are the things that, like, that irked me about it, was that the NWO was a ripoff of New Japan. And what is Kevin Nash's most successful thing he's ever done? A ripoff in the NWO. So if he really wants to, pot me kettle. And then we go on to other things. This is all Dom, but I the Rock and Roll Express and the Young Bucks, there's something stolen there. The fact that maybe the Hardy Boys, Tully and Arn, and then the FTR, there's definitely similarities there. Cody kind of takes from his dad, kind of takes from Hulk Hogan, kind of takes from the American Hero.
Cena, all of them.
You know what I mean? Cena was Vanilla Ice, like, for crying out. Like, there's so many things that you steal to make it work. But then, like, this one was perfect. It's not mine, so I don't have the link, but I took a screenshot of it. I just wanted to say this much. Shawn Michaels took the super kick from Chris Adams. Ric Flair took Nature Boy from Buddy Rogers. Hulk Hogan took his style from, guess who? Superstar Billy Graham. Eddie Guerrero took the frog splash from his tag partner. Kevin Nash took the power bomb that was invented by Lou Thesz. And who had a Lou Thesz press? Oh yeah, Stone Cold Steve Austin. So, like, just listening to what that person said was just like, come on. Like, come on.
It's moronic. It's an absolutely moronic fucking take. And when you're someone who gets that much attention for saying something, it's fucking irresponsible. So Kevin Nash, you're the fucking heat of the week, bitch.
All right, anyway, get hopeful.
Glorious. You're my only hope. Yeah. I talked about it. It's LA Knight. Yeah. He's going to be my hope. Yeah. Everyone wanted him in Money in the Bank. Yeah. But guess what? Triple H, I commend him. He said, look it, guys. I know that's what everyone wants, but it's like, he'll get there. It's time. And then I'm like, you know what? You're right. Because we've seen WWE drop the ball with a lot of hot acts all the time. Like, you can talk about Rusev Day, all these other examples. But what's the difference between LA Knight and those guys? Rusev already had several years on the main roster, proving he is a main event type player, had that cachet as a heel. He eventually turned babyface, got over. So yeah, you can call that a drop ball. But this is different. LA Knight's still kind of new on the main roster. He's catching his steam. And it's like, yes, I know, like, the age thing. It's like, oh my God, he's older, whatever. But it's like, well, Damian Priest just won Money in the Bank. He's older than LA Knight. But again, here's the difference. Priest has been on the main roster. Priest has had mid-card title runs. And that's an important thing for me. I think it's a very, 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 very small group of guys that can go immediately to a world title picture without that quote-unquote stepping stone championship practice reign first. And that's why, like, I loved how they've done it with Gunther. It made sense. Like, this is a guy that it's just like, it's going to be so much better if you give him that dominant mid-card reign first. So I'm looking at him like, you know what? What's a few that made immediately during the draft that we came up with? LA Knight and Austin Theory. Yeah. So that's where my hope is. It's like, Austin Theory just happens to be the United States champion. So you know what makes perfect sense to me and someone who fucking loves LA Knight as much as everyone else is let's have a feud with Austin Theory. And you know what can happen at the end of that feud with Austin Theory, Nestlemania? LA Knight can become United States champion. Boom. First main card title. If it is a successful run and he keeps his momentum, guess what it is, Nestlemania? It's a stepping stone. And that's kind of what, not so much the title, but that's kind of what Triple H alluded to in the press conference, being like, look it, this guy's going to get there. It's just like, don't need to do it yet because he doesn't have that. He had a great NXT run, sure, but I don't even think he had a title down there. So,
$1 million title.
Yeah, the $1 million title. That's right. So it's just like, let's climb the stairs. We're not going to try to fucking jump up the whole stairs in one fucking bound because you're probably going to break your neck trying to do that. Let's fucking progress it. Like the majority of superstars, he'll be fine. He's still got plenty of time left to have a nice mid-card reign. Maybe this time next year, maybe he is a world champion. Who knows? We'll see. I still think he can get there, but it's just like, why are we skipping the lines, man? When it's literally right there for us to have perfectly set it up. SummerSlam, Austin Theory versus LA Knight. I know Austin Theory's facing Sheamus on Friday. Who knows? Maybe it won't be at SummerSlam, but I think that's the next progression for LA Knight is the United States Championship, and I think he can make it sing. Yeah! Hashtag JC hopes come true. Yeah! Hashtag JC knows. Yeah!
Just going back very quickly to the Austin comparison, he being Austin, won the King of the Ring 96, didn't become champion until 98, right? So it's like
progression.
You need to let that, you got to let the long, the fuse get to the fucking kaboom. You don't just want to fucking let it explode right away. So I tend to agree with you. My hope is very odd. And I thought about this for a second, and I just thought it would be interesting because we haven't seen this in a very long time. As I was watching SmackDown, we had Bayley putting up her Money in the Bank spot against Shotzi, but that's not the where I'm going here. Afterwards, Io and Bayley beat up Shotzi and cut her hair. So then I was intrigued. Color me intrigued. And I thought to myself, Kyle, because that's what I call myself. And I said, Kyle, what could we do with this? And basically, it's really something interesting to me. And that's maybe we are headed to Shotzi versus Bayley in a hair versus hair match.
You fucking love your hair versus hair.
I love hair versus hair matches.
You probably had 30 hopes on this program about hair versus hair matches.
Probably. I would imagine so. But no, this one was like, this enticed me because all I could think about was bald Bayley. That would be awesome. Or bald Shotzi. At least there'd be something to give her. Like,
oh, Shotzi's hair ain't going anywhere.
No,
Bayley,
but I'm just saying, like, Bayley would be a great head shaving experience and she'd make it work. Shotzi would I think Shotzi needs something else because whatever she's doing is sort of working, but then she gets
kind of her gimmick though.
I know, but I just feel like a hair versus hair match it's a good secondary thing for the women. And that's what I want to hit upon is these women need more things, more specialty things because they are doing a great job. And all I could think about was like hair versus hair is a huge deal and they'll make a huge deal out of it. And we kind of, not to give Mandy a bit of heat here, but like we were headed to Mandy versus Sonya, hair versus hair, and of course that awful thing happened, and I was so excited with that, and it didn't happen. So now I just want Shotzi versus Bayley, hair versus hair, SummerSlam. Let's fucking do it, and then of course that way Bayley can bump into Io, lose the match, shave her head, bald Bayley. They can call her Baldy instead of Bayley. It would work. It writes itself. There we go. I'm excited. Hashtag Nestle knows. Hashtag Nestle's hopes come true. Hashtag bald ass Bayley. There you go.
Hashtag Nestle shames full heads of hair.
Are you kidding me? Look at this hair. This is
that's what I'm saying. You just want to shave everyone's head. You want to be the last man left with hair.
I wish I could shave Doc's head just so he can look exactly how he acts, like a penis. Okay.
Oh my.
There you go.
I don't even think Doc's in the chat right now.
That's for Bertsky, by the way, because Bertsky knows what's up. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
So.
Well, should we go to comeback?
Yeah, let's give our comebacks out. Let's.
My comeback is going to a TV. Oh no, I'm going to Rampage. Johnny TV Nestlemania. He obviously returned a couple weeks ago, and it was But you know what? It's more than just Johnny TV. I'm giving my comeback to because, I mean, this is crazy because I had this guy nominated last year as the worst thing in wrestling, but this fucking QT TV bullshit is just, it's finding its footing. Obviously, I kind of like the pairing with Hobbs, and they're still kind of doing this, but the star of the show now is now Harley Cameron. She just like, and now with Johnny TV, they're doing like the movie entrance with the red carpet thing, which I'm always for, but it's just like, this group has so much gaga. They're perfect heels for like the bottom middle of the card. There's obviously a ton, but like Harley Cameron has just embraced this role. Like she goes up there, she sings, she's instant heat. It was kind of like they finally found a formula with. We know why they feature QT. Obviously, in the back, he's a fucking rock star, blah, 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 whatever. On TV, it's just like trying to do him by itself doesn't work. But having like him being the centerpiece of like this network, and now you have Johnny TV who can bring it in the wrestling ring and has kind of fits this movie star type gimmick. And Harley Cameron, just like I just watching them on Rampage, I'm like, holy shit. They found a way to make this shit good and watchable. And it's going to work because obviously the segment they claimed last week or 2 weeks ago, whenever it was A+, but just like little things of adding to it, like the entrance and whatever. It's like they're finally becoming a full package. And I'm like, you know what? QTV, you deserve to be on my TV. So I guess like the headline is I'm giving my comeback to Johnny TV, but I'm giving it to QTV as a whole because by golly gosh, they got me to buy in and it works. And you know what? Making Rampage a little more watchable. So there's my comeback.
Dynamite's number 3 on the JC viewing platform.
As of right now, that show is a fucking. I mean, and then I'm looking at this week's card. Kenny Omega and Wheeler Yuta. Good God, it's just like that's the problem with Dynamite. It's like they only use jerk off fest with people I don't give a shit about with fucking Wheeler Yuta and bullshit. It's like Rampage and fucking Collision feature the real wrestlers that I care about, not the fucking basement dweller fucking wet dreams.
There you go, basement dweller, mama's basement, or virgin. We'll have to go back and look at it. But anyway,
I'll have to go to the tape for that one.
Yeah, exactly. My comeback goes to AEW as well, but specifically for Dynamite, specifically for the backstage segments, which I thought were fucking incredible because I thought that it made the arena feel bigger. It made the show feel bigger, more important. Gave me a little bit, a toe dip, if you will, into like the Monday Night Raw, the Monday Night Wrestling kind of like shit going down in the back. Like Jungle Boys promo we can talk about another time, doesn't matter, whatever. But like Hook running and then him diving in backstage and then Hook kind of like getting upset made it feel bigger. Having the multiple Adam Coles and MJF and calling Roddy generic wrestler, dude, like a generic white dude. I was just like, this is fucking great. I just thought that they did a great job. More of that, please, because that's important in terms of the overall presentation of making it feel like it's. We know that the arenas that they're going for, Dynamite, aren't bigger like the WWE, but when you do stuff like this, that makes the show feel bigger to a television audience who's watching at home. So that's why they get my comeback. Great job, AEW Dynamite. Keep it up because the other shows are actually working. Let's do it.
Speaking of AEW Nestlemania, that brings us to the big old finish on Dynamite this week. They're starting their fucking strange bedfellows, random ass fucking tournament, which for a show that prides themselves in tag teams, I don't know why this needs to exist, but you ready for these?
Hold on. Perfect Strangers Tournament. That's what we should have.
Whatever that works for me.
That's a sitcom, but whatever.
MJF and Cole are facing question marks. We don't actually know who they're facing, but like you mentioned there, I've enjoyed this aspect of it. Those two together has been fun. It's obviously going to set up long-term them in a title match, but for them, this works. The other one, this one's a fucking doozy. Swerve and Lee, the former tag champs who hate each other, are conveniently a team again as they take on the beloved team of Orange Cassidy and Darby Allin. I mean, there's no way this doesn't blow up in Orange and Darby advance, right?
I would say, so I don't know. Can you see the brackets? Because I can't.
No. They have so many tournaments going on right now. I can't keep track of all the brackets.
It's hard to fucking keep track of the tags, the Owen Hart women, Owen Hart male. It's a lot. Space out your tournaments. Learn from New Japan, please. But the tag title eliminator will be interesting, I guess. But I would say that I want to see Swerve and, well, I guess you can't have Swerve and Keith Lee do it because then it takes away from the specialness of Adam and MJF, right? So
yeah,
that would be a reason for it to lose.
Yeah, I think obviously, like we know, probably MJF and Cole probably make it to the finals and lose. Or maybe, who knows, maybe they really do get a shot at FTR. That'd be fucking weird. But I mean, the Swerve Lee thing, I'm glad that they're at least back together because they never really put a bow on that feud of them breaking up. They kind of broke it away. Then Swerve tried to start his own stable, which I think both those guys are now like their contracts have expired. So he's now in with the Mogul Embassies with the Brian Cage group or whatever. So it's a weird thing. But I think for that dynamic, it's interesting, but I don't know. But we have the final first round match in the women's tournament. Britt Baker will take on Ruby Soho. Britt Baker, obviously the defending champion in the Owen Hart tournament. Who you got in Nestlemania?
I feel like Ruby needs it, so I'm going to go with Ruby. I think she deserves it.
I agree. Yeah, and she's got two people that can help her cheat, so I think it makes sense. The last thing on Dynamite that I have announced match-wise is the one I alluded to earlier. Kenny Omega taking on Wheeler Yuta, who fucking pinned him on pay-per-view.
Nobody cares about Wheeler Yuta on AEW. I'm sorry. Like, from a general audience. Now, the hardcore audience may love him. But to a casual, nobody cares.
Yeah, so I've had about enough of that. Collision, much more attractive here. We have well, maybe not this match, but it's a rematch, I think, from the Ring of Honor Women's Championship. It is the first round Owen Hart Women's Tournament. It is Athena versus Willow Nightingale.
Who's in the up? Can you see the bracket for that, or probably not?
I think the winner of this faces the winner of Ruby and Britt, so I'm assuming Willow will win. But
there you go. I feel like Willow has to be on the upside because of the strong championship she had. So I feel like Willow's on the uptick here.
Makes sense for me. Then we have the semifinal matches for the men's. We have Starks and Hobbs. Last time these two had their payoff, Hobbs squashed him. So I do think Ricky's going to get revenge here because I think Ricky might actually win this tournament.
I would say Hobbs is going to either or CM Punk. I see Punk and Hobbs in the final. When I saw the brackets, that's what I saw. Because Punk probably wants to work with Hobbs again. So I would say that Punk probably has to win because he's got a fucking jerk off for the Hart family and sell his merchandise. So what better way to win than the Owen Hart Cup?
See, I do agree with you. I think Punk beats Samoa Joe, but I mean, it's AEW, so I think we could see the babyface final, and then whether it's Samoa Joe or something else, I think something probably does in a weird way distract Punk, but I don't know. I just had this. I'll stick with my original thing because I think your way makes sense too, but I'll stick with my original pick of Ricky Starks to beat CM Punk eventually. And then we have Nestlemania, a tag team eliminator match between FTR versus the Gun Boys without the guns. So not the actual tag team. It's White Juice. That's what I'm going to call them. White Juice.
I don't like the idea of you beating the champions to get a title shot. I absolutely hate it. And I think that's
do it. Hate it.
And I hate it because it why would you do that? Why? What I would rather see, here's what I would rather see. I would rather see a matchup that goes, instead of you winning a match to have another match, just have one match with 2 falls and say, if you win the first one, the next fucking fall is for the tag titles. That's the same fucking match. If not, okay, match is over. Bye. Let's just do it that way.
Interesting concept.
You know what? Save it. Because honestly, because they're both, if they won, then it's like, oh shit, they're dog ass tired. They just might have momentum. But if you do it, you spread it out different weeks. Why the fuck would I watch the first match?
Yeah, I hate it too because it's literally like you're using the same match to try to set up the same match. Doesn't make sense. The only way you can get away with it is if the second match is like a gimmick match or whatever. But even still, I hate it. Stick with number 1 contender matches, not championship contender matches, whatever the fuck you want to call them. I hate them. But Nestlemania, that puts a bow on AEW. We can put a bow on SmackDown and Raw as we get out of here. Coming up on SmackDown this week, we have the Tribal Court featuring Roman Reigns. Maybe we'll get the whole Dog and Pony show for the Big Bra. Maybe Rikishi's ass will be there. We also have the Grayson Waller effect featuring Edge and his return to TV. And we have Austin Theory versus Sheamus for the United States Championship.
Doesn't sound like a lot of time for wrestling on this program. I'll be honest. Nope. So between those two eating up scenery in the main event, probably, or the beginning of the show, I think you start with, because you're gonna start off hot, but I feel like you close the show with the fucking Tribal Court.
Yeah.
9:00 hour, top of the hour is Waller.
So that's it's like spot now.
I just feel like not a lot of wrestling.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. They're going to have a million recaps because on Raw next week, Nestlemania, we have a Ricochet Logan Paul face-to-face. They had the big spot and they had the little woo backstage. We know that's going to be a match at SummerSlam. I know I'm excited to see it. I'm super pumped and jacked because it's going to be an athleticism spot fest of fucking glory. Oh, man. Everyone in AEW is going to be so jealous of how these two are going to pull it off because it's going to be everything they want to do. They're just going to do it better. We also have Miz and Ciampa in a no DQ match. This is the most serious Miz has been booked in a while. I think that's exciting. And then we have the fucking human snore, Zoe Stark, taking on Becky Lynch.
I'm excited for Ciampa and Miz. I think that'll be fun if they give him time.
I think they Raw 3-hour show, baby. I bet it'll be a 3-segger.
I hope so. The other thing is
2.5-segger, maybe.
I feel like, clearly we're headed towards Zoe Stark losing and then Trish eventually being able to
Becky at SummerSlam.
You would think.
Do we get Trish, Zoe, Becky, Lita at SummerSlam?
If they do that, I feel like they're wasting their time because here's the only caveat to Ronda leaving was that I didn't get Ronda versus Becky one-on-one. And I think that's the biggest left money on the table thing that they 100%.
Did. That's why you pull the trigger when it's hot. Again, that's Wrestling 101. We fucking never save shit like that because,
you may miss out on the money. And I think that was the money feud that they missed out on. So now it's like, if you give me Lita and Becky versus Zoe and Trish, I'm out. I don't give a fuck because To me, it's like Lita and Zoe cancel each other out anyway. So why are we doing this? Let's just present it with the two that matter. No offense, Guthrie, but the two that matter.
I agree. I think Becky and Trish, you do the one-on-one match in SummerSlam. If you want to, maybe Lita returns at SummerSlam to help Becky get the win when Trish and Zoe are cheating, and then it sets up a tag match to fucking send those two to the retirement home where they belong. But that's how I would do it, because I still think they're happening at some point. Like fucking Trish turning on Lita didn't happen by mistake. So I do think we'll get there, but I do think what you want on the marquee for SummerSlam is Trish Becky one-on-one.
Okay. Anything else?
I think that's it, man. Let's do you have any final thoughts?
No, I think I'm all out. This is a long show, so we should probably head out.
A lot happened this week.
I know. I'm well aware. On that note, thank you for listening to the Jobber Knocker podcast. Have a wonderful 4th if you celebrate, and eat as many hot dogs, because I can eat more hot dogs than JC. That's a given. Just saying.
Hot dogs are okay.
What? We're not
after like 2 hot dogs, I'm good. I don't need any more than that. 2 is the perfect amount. Had my full. They served their purpose. But after that, I don't want any more than 2.
Anywho, because that is just un-American, we should go celebrate America. Have a wonderful 4th. Have a great time. We'll be back next week with more Jobber Knocker
and less America in my soul.